Welcome to the latest of my deep dive videos. Today I'm going to explore the Scorpio full moon, which occurs across the 12th mainly and the 13th of May. It's at 22 degrees and 12 minutes. If you do have fixed planets between 20 and 24 degrees in the signs of Taurus itself, of Leo, Scorpio or Aquarius, you are going to feel the angularity of this event in a big way. Now, both the position of the sun and the moon are in fixed signs. Fixed signs like continuity, but Uranus, the planet of freedom, is applying to the position of the sun and is in an opposition with the moon. That's going to create some restlessness. It could create some sudden changes or revelations. The sign of Scorpio has a mystique. It can be about secrets, but Uranus could tease some out into the open. Furthermore, the moon in Scorpio is in her full. This is not a strong location for the moon to be in. Now, ironically, Uranus is in its full in the sign of Taurus, but it's exalted in Scorpio. So we've got some interesting subplots here. But if we think about what a full moon is, it's when the moon and the sun are in opposition. So we go back to the new moon in Taurus of the 27th of April. That's a very strong new moon, usually because the moon is exalted there. She loves being in Taurus. So it's a great time to put something in motion that will bring greater stability and growth. The sign of Taurus can be about gardening, planting, agriculture, but it also can be about our life foundations and our values, but also our sense of self-worth, but everyday money. The sign of Scorpio, where the moon has moved round halfway through its circuit to oppose the sun, well, that's very much more to do with shared resources. Can be to do with those aforementioned secrets, but it's also about where we can be most invested for the longer term, whether that's spiritually, emotionally, sexually, or intimately, or in terms of business and finance. So Uranus, in that electric combination with the sun opposite the moon, that's going to create the potential for turbulence. And energies can be pushed out into the open. We know that full moons can be very intense. So whatever we set our intentions to at the end of April, and that wasn't an easy Taurus new moon because of the role of Mars, but also Pluto. And of course, they are the two co-regents of the sign of Scorpio. So that's in the mix too. So that particular new moon, although we may have set those intentions, it was very, very complex, and we had a lot of cross energies and potentially a lot of stubborn and intransigent responses because of the fixed energy of all the players. And Mars opposite Pluto, which is still going on broadly by about 7 degrees, is a very obstinate but also very warlike aspect. So what can we expect over this next couple of weeks? I'm going to unpack all of this for you. This particular moon position is fascinating in terms of famous astrologers, and I'm going to share that with you as well. I'm also going to take a look at the two event charts. We can look at it from a solar perspective with the ascendant nominally at 0 degrees in Aries on the vernal point, and that's something that we can all relate to. But I'm going to share with you also the natal event chart based on Greenwich, the prime meridian and universal time, which gives us an ascendant in the sign of Libra. But there's something really intriguing about the house positions of both the moon and the sun, but also Uranus. Also, I need to tell you that Mercury, the planet of communication, which is in the sign of Taurus at this time, is going to be hugely influential as well. And we need to be mindful still of the two rulers of Scorpio, Mars and Pluto. So please stay with me for all of that. I'll share the exact timings for all the major cities of the world, and then I'm going to go through each of the 12 signs from Aries through to Pisces. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are new to this channel, please help it thrive and press that subscription button, but also please do click or tap the bell notification symbol. Now I must say huge thank yous to the people who've now become members of the channel. I've set a very affordable rate, but any support that you can give me would mean so much. So please look out for the memberships. If you'd like to have a one-to-one with me, I am a consultant astrologer. Please check out my testimonials. And also, if you would like to know more about your natal birth chart, you can download your free chart. It's absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device as well. And my special ongoing long-standing offer, your life roadmap report, the most important document anyone will ever read, and also your 12-month transits forecast, 30% off. Please see below for more. The Life Roadmap helps us to understand the patterns of energies that are played out all of our lives. But critically, once we know how to work with them, we can embrace the transits that are going on now and make better decisions and time our moves more shrewdly. So this event occurs at 22 degrees and 12 minutes. And in terms of the moon position, it is conjunct a very notable fixed star called Yun Yu Ka Hai. Pardon me if my pronunciation is not quite on the nail. But interestingly, that is also conjunct Nostradamus' moon position, but also a very famous astrologer called Al-Biruni, who traditional astrologers hold in massive esteem, and they're both exactly conjunct in terms of their personal natal moons with this particular degree. So it makes people very clever, but it also, because of the scorpionic energy, can have a tendency towards intrigues and plots, and things that are perhaps hidden could, particularly with Uranus on the other side of the heavens, be pushed into the open. So I think it's possible that if there is something politically that's going on out of sight now, it could show itself on this event and in the 2 weeks of the impact of the full moon thereafter. But of course, the sign of Taurus is about everyday money. The sign of Scorpio is about longer term money. So we're talking about things like investments, shares, savings, pensions, can be property, things like equities. And maybe there's going to be more turbulence, unfortunately, because that new moon, as much as that's a great place for the moon in Taurus to be, was, if you recall, as I said before, impacted very powerfully by both Mars and Pluto, the rulers of Scorpio. But they can be much more impetuous. In the sign of Aquarius, Pluto is detached, can be so rational it finds it difficult to feel. Then you've got Mars in Leo, can be so prideful and so needing of attention that doesn't necessarily lead to good financial decisions either. So we may have something that we need to redress or rebalance in terms of the ins and outgoings of our everyday finances. And it's possible that also there could be a sudden cost. Now that may be an insurance premium that we've forgotten about, and it will suddenly arrive on the doorstep, in the post or by email, and we need to take action to address that. But there is definitely always opportunities with every lunation. So this is an opportunity to think very deeply. Scorpio tease into the open something that we may be finding a little difficult to comprehend. And one of the things could be anything to do with where our values don't mesh with someone else's, particularly someone we're close to. So that could be romantic, it could be a friend, a family member, or a business partner. And those tensions can be forced into the open by the electricity and the desire for the higher truth that Uranus can create. So there could be some very blunt discussions over the next couple of weeks, and that can create a degree of uncertainty and turbulence, particularly as far as business is concerned, because we have seen with these tariffs that actually causes a great deal of fear, essentially, about how things may play out, and it has fed into consumer confidence, which is very, very low. So we've seen some old values such as gold. That's where all the investors have gone, because gold tends to be where people retreat to when there are turbulent times. So I think we could see more of that, unfortunately. But what we can also see is perhaps where we might resist someone who feels quite controlling. Because in a way, the sign of Taurus can be where we're somewhat attached, but also perhaps a little stuck in our ways. The Scorpio energy could push us to change. Scorpio is an interesting sign because of the fixedness. Scorpio will resist change very powerfully, but then when change comes, it can come at a colossal speed and in a very, very powerful way. And because Uranus is in the mix here, something could suddenly shift, and it may be because someone resists someone's desire to be a bit possessive or get things only on their own terms or be a bit inflexible. So I think all of that is possible over this next 2 weeks. But on the screen now, I'm sharing the event chart from a solar perspective. And as I mentioned before, the ascendant is nominally on the vernal equinox. So we can see there's the Sun and Uranus pretty close together in house 2, and there's the moon on the opposite side of the heavens. Let's just be mindful briefly of the position of those two rulers of the sign of Scorpio. So Mars continues its journey through Leo, which it will be in through to the middle of June. But Pluto, you can see, is actually forging a pretty strong link with the position of Venus, but a very harsh and challenging one with the position of Mercury. And more broadly, Mars is also in a square with Mercury too. So that intensity and stubbornness and inflexibility that we had at the end of April could come up again over this next 2 weeks. Mercury in Taurus is actually a strong position, I feel, because Mercury can be about business, it can be the merchant, and yes, it can be about messages, but it can also be about precision. So in the sign of Taurus, it's thinking in a steady eddy way. It's not making rash decisions, but we've got the very utilitarian energies of Pluto in Aquarius, which is seeing huge impacts around technology, especially AI, robotics and automation, as we have seen building up in recent years. But Mars and Mercury in a square creates a very impatient energy and potentially a very intolerant energy. Mercury in a square with Mars could also see us want to make some sudden spending decisions. Will those sudden spending decisions have an impact on somebody else? So just be mindful that we still have some very big fixed energy. So the T-square with Mercury, I think, is particularly notable on this event. The position of Saturn to Uranus and the Sun, perhaps more Saturn to Uranus, is interesting because they're the two rulers of Aquarius, but they're actually collaborating on this event quite well. So we need to be open-minded, Uranus in Taurus, about fresh approaches, but continuity or past skills and experience still something to savour. So to boil it all down on this particular event chart, for us all, the collective energies of the moon in Scorpio can see revelations about things that have been hidden, and it can see politics, jealousy, possessiveness, control, leverage, and whether it's in the political sphere or whether it's to do with finances, there's going to be things coming into the open. Also now, the event chart from a Placidus viewpoint, based on Greenwich, the prime meridian and universal, there's that ascendant at 24 degrees and 15 in Libra. And that puts the moon, and this is the really interesting part of this particular event, the moon is in house 2. So astrologers are pretty keen not to reflect that house positions have a direct correlation to zodiac signs. But what I think we could say is there is a broad correlation. So ironically, the moon's in the Taurus type energy of the chart, and guess what? The Sun and Uranus are in the Scorpio like energy. So that creates even more intrigue when it comes to any mysteries that may have been hidden, but also the potential for those mysteries to be pushed into the open. Now, over the last year, Jupiter, the planet of opportunity and good fortune, has been in its detriment in the sign of Gemini, but largely afflicted by Saturn in the sign of Pisces. And you can see that was repeated again recently. They're still in touch. You know, Jupiter is just under 24, so it's, Saturn's nearly 29. It's obviously going to be moving very, very soon on the 25th of May. I have done a deep dive on that. Please look out for that. But what we're going to see, once Saturn moves into Aries and Jupiter moves into Cancer, we're going to see them squaring off again, which is precisely on the 15th of June. So the reason I'm mentioning that is essentially Jupiter is about growth, optimism, and Saturn can be about limitation. So when it comes to the financial cycle, I feel that this event is more challenging than hopeful, to be truly honest. So whether it's about shared finances, whether it's about things where we just have a point of view difference, we see things in a very different way, whether it is because someone we've been very invested in doesn't share the same amount of passion and commitment, whether it is going to be disagreements on who does or contributes what to a particular alliance, that could be a bit of a tricky scenario too. Or whether it's we're just stuck, you know, we feel a bit entrenched in a particular life choice or way of being, because fixed energy can make it a little bit difficult to break the mold. But that's where Uranus can be an asset for us. So just to recap, if you are a fixed sign from 20 through to 24 degrees, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio or Aquarius, the angularity will impact on those planets that you have at that point. So the best way to deal with this really is to flex. But it's also worth understanding what we might be holding on to, what we're attached to, that actually we need to release, because of course full moons can be about release. So if we tried a particular approach, whether it is around income generation, whether it's around a relationship, whether however much we fancy someone, our values are just so different that there is the spark but there's not the harmony, whatever issue comes up on this particular full moon, I feel we do have an opportunity for release, but that release must come from flexibility, letting go and not needing to control the moment, and that can be quite Scorpionic. So I hope that gives you a pretty full picture of what to expect. On the screen now is the exact timings across the major cities of the world. So it's the 12th of May for all of them apart from Sydney. And I'm now going to go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces. Now, people often ask, what do I watch, the ascendant, the sun or the moon? If you know your astrology, it's the ascendant all day long. But of course, aficionados of astrology probably will check out their sun position too. If your interest is emerging in astrology, please download that free natal chart. It will really give you so much information to guide you. Now, I'm going to start with Aries. So Aries, if you're contemplating starting a new venture, you're a naturally entrepreneurial person, and you've been doing so much planning, thinking deeply, doing a research with the planetary alliances in your 12th house of late, that really wouldn't be a surprise. Once Saturn moves into your sign on the 25th of May, it can be a case of go, 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 but in a very thorough and very systematic way. So this particular energy just suggests that if you're not quite sure exactly where things stand, one of the things I wouldn't do at this stage is make any rash decisions, because Uranus can make us perhaps a little unsettled. Maybe that's been something you've experienced over the last year, since March 2019. If we go back to 218, the seed chart clashed with your ruler Mars. And however much you may have wanted to try some fresh and different approaches, Uranus in the second house, to earning money, perhaps some have worked for you, perhaps some haven't, because that's what Uranus is like. It's about innovation, but not everybody who innovates is the person who actually capitalizes. But what you have gained over that period of time is a huge amount of knowledge and experience. So if you wanted to do something fresh and different around your finances, you can still be very open-minded with Uranus in the mix, but don't rush it, because Mars in your 5th house could make you somewhat impetuous. And also, just be conscious if there are discussions around who does or contributes what, around shared finances, around where you're close or not close. That can also be part of the narrative over the next couple of weeks. And it would be easy with Uranus directly opposite the moon to spin out, create space from where there's tension, and give yourself the time to just preserve your independence. But it's a full moon that's very much about where we're most closely attached and invested. So in a way, Uranus strains that energy. So whether we have a challenging Scorpio full moon like this one because of Uranus, or because the two rulers of the sign are in opposition and we have them squaring off to Mercury in Taurus or not, this is a full moon that's very much about reviewing where we're most invested and connected. So with Uranus there, swift decisions may give us an instant relief. They may give us a bonus point in that split second. But if we detach ourselves from a situation in a way which makes it very much more difficult to keep the dialogue going, and that does see people take up very unyielding positions, something could break down that actually just needs a bit more patience. So if someone sees something in a very different way to you, they have a different worldview, just try to go along with that. Keep the lines of communication open, keep trying to explore ways that you could collaborate if that's what you feel is worth doing. Now, of course, if something really, really isn't working, then you may feel that Uranus is saying to you, look, your need for stability, financial independence and security is more important than being connected to someone who creates issues and dramas in your world. So in that situation, you'd have every right to fully break free. But if it's something that does have the potential for progress, I would say don't be too rash over this next couple of weeks. But there may be some decisions you might have to make about finances. If you do decide that you're going to splash out on something and that more impulsive side of your nature comes up, probably would advise you to go for something that has some kind of practical benefit that can help your life in some kind of way. Please check out my new website at www.patrickarundel.com. There are loads of celestial goodies there for you to enjoy. You can check at any time during the day exactly where the planets are in the sky. You can download your free natal horoscope, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, but also your daily, weekly, monthly and year 2025 love horoscopes are there for you to enjoy too. So that's www.patrickarundel.com. Taurus, if we go back to the 27th of April, that was a time when you had an opportunity to add extra thrust and traction to whatever exciting plans you were developing at that time. What you could find with this particular full moon is that someone may feel that you have not been as focused on them as you could be. And it's possible you can see their viewpoint, but if they're antagonistic about it, that could be quite challenging, because the chances are if you are being very single-minded, it's because you feel you have to. And that focus is something you don't want to be disturbed because someone feels a little hurt that your attention has drifted in a different direction. But if they have got a point, I wouldn't be too single-minded about it. You know, obviously having a frank discussion is something that's very likely with Uranus in the mix, but Mercury's in your sign as well, but that is being challenged by both Mars and Pluto in that T-square. So you could dig your heels in and you could actually be quite reactive, because for you Mars is in the 4th house, very emotional, and Pluto's in the 10th house, so it's a lot to do with what you're trying to shape up in terms of the big picture in your world. So that could be work, particularly if you're working on something that means a lot to you, the individual, you know, whether it's your own enterprise, whether it's an art or craft interest, and the partner is not quite getting how important this is for you. I think the chances are you could be a little hostile if you feel that someone's not giving you the support you deserve. Because essentially, when we really want a golden prize, we do have to be really dedicated. And if you're feeling that someone's not getting, that it's not personal, that you are just doing what you feel you need to do, perhaps for everyone's benefit, that's what could really rankle. But let's just assume that isn't the case, and maybe you have lost a little bit of interest in one particular connection. Well, this could be a critical point. Are you going to continue in the relationship or not? So a weak relationship, unfortunately, could break down, particularly that your ruler Venus is in the 12th house of your chart, which can be a time of deep reflection, but also it can be a time of romantic endings. Ironically, Venus forges a very strong link to Mars, so someone very close to you, a family member, could turn out to be very supportive. But I think if you're in essentially a strong relationship, but maybe you just have been juggling quite a lot and perhaps feel the other person needs to give you more support, this is a chance to have that honest discussion. But if you feel that someone's really not getting what you're about, never ever truly will, or perhaps you've lost a little bit of interest in them, you don't quite have the same desire for the relationship because Uranus is emphasizing your need for independence, could be a time when you decide to call it a day. Please check out my new website at www.patrickarundel.com. There are loads of celestial goodies there for you to enjoy. You can check at any time during the day exactly where the planets are in the sky. You can download your free natal horoscope, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, but also your daily, weekly, monthly and year 2025 love horoscopes are there for you to enjoy too. So that's www.patrickarundel.com. So Gemini, this particular full moon sees your ruling planet Mercury right at the heart of the cosmic mix in a T-square with Mars and also Pluto. Now Mercury for you in the 12th house can be where we're a little more reflective. It can be where we don't feel quite as chatty as usual. Ironically, you do have Mars in your 3rd house, very much about passionately sharing ideas, in a beautiful link with Venus in the part of your chart to do with friendship, sociability. So that's gorgeous. So where is Mercury going to show up? Well, I think it's possible that you could encounter some tensions around your work or where you have obligations. And those tensions could be very much to do with your nervous system, to be honest. Because Mercury in the 12th house can be quite tender. It can be where maybe we find it a bit more difficult to say how we feel. Now, usually articulating your message comes naturally to you, but do you always find it so easy to say how you truly feel? So that's a bit different from expressing an idea. So Mars and Pluto being in an opposition still will certainly give you no difficulty in asserting your viewpoint. But if there is something more tender or delicate that needs to be discussed, you may find yourself actually having some kind of bruising encounter, but the root of it could be because something sensitive has been triggered. So the position of the Sun and Uranus in your 12th house is to do with the shadow side of our natures, the part of us that we're a bit more reluctant to look at. So our fears, our anxieties, our vulnerabilities, the parts of us that we can be quite protective of, whereas the position of the Moon is in a very practical location. It's more about your physical well-being. It's more about your life organisation. If something is out of kilter, particularly to do with your work, and it's creating quite a lot of stress for you, I think this event is saying in a way that if you can spin out, give yourself some space, even have some time out and spend time with people you feel very at ease with, I think that's going to be very restorative. But if you have been burning the midnight oil, or you're tempted to do so over the next couple of weeks, just be aware that this full moon is amplifying the aggravating vibe of Uranus that it has brought to many Geminis full time since March 2019, because your emotional nature is often shielded by your quick wits. So you can have a discussion about something and everyone can think that, you know, you're very on top of things, you know, you're very in touch with how you feel, but actually you can use humour and deflection like no other sign. Now that might not be true of you personally at all, particularly if you've got planets in Cancer, but if you are someone who tends to gloss over things a little bit, deflect, try to avoid looking at tender issues, just be aware that especially at work there may be someone who's scrutinising what you're doing in a picky and intolerant way. Just be aware that that challenge could come in your direction. And because Mercury, your ruler, is in such a very profound T-square with Mars and Pluto, yes, you can defend your position, but if it's going into you at some level because, you know, you have a difficult conversation or there's an argument, that is something that could be very tender for you over the next couple of weeks. So the best way, as I say, I feel for you to deal with this is essentially use the energies of Mars and Venus, which are encouraging you to have some time off and not be so caught up with the intensity of juggling all the different plates that you might have to spin at this particular time in your situation. Please check out my new website at www.patrickarundel.com. There are loads of celestial goodies there for you to enjoy. You can check at any time during the day exactly where the planets are in the sky. You can download your free natal horoscope, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, but also your daily, weekly, monthly and year 2025 love horoscopes are there for you to enjoy too. So that's www.patrickarundel.com. Cancer, for you lunations, are hugely important because your ruler is the moon. So the moon in Scorpio is about where you can showcase your individuality. The position of the Sun and Uranus is in the part of your chart that's to do with your long-term plan, your higher ideals. If you feel that in some way you're being cramped, you may decide over the next couple of weeks to do something radical that changes that long-term plan, which then releases the position of the moon to enable you to flood your life with what brings you joy. And that therefore could mean a U-turn. It's also possible with Mars and Pluto, the two rulers of Scorpio, clashing across your 2nd and 8th houses, but in a T-square with Mercury, like the Sun and Uranus in your 11th house, that change of plan or strategy could have an impact financially. And if someone close to you doesn't agree with your desire to change something, that can create some tensions as well. It's possible that for some Cancerian people, the fact that Venus in the 10th house of your chart is in such a strong location or angle, with Mars in your 2nd, that there could be some kind of breakthrough that's really going to be exciting for you. But that breakthrough could happen very suddenly. But you could find yourself having to juggle your time. In fact, when it comes to time, one of the things that I could say about the next few weeks, Cancer, is that quite a few people might want a piece of you. And if you just don't feel that you can keep up with everyone's demands, that too could be something that sees you pivot into some fresh or new approach, which creates the room for you to do with what you need to do for you. You have got Jupiter coming into your sign on the 9th of June, and of course Saturn's moving to the top of your chart on the 25th of May. So if it is around your profession, your job, your work, your responsibilities, that you're just wanting more freedom to be, especially if you're a more bohemian type of person, corporate life is not really for you. This can be a very important phase, but one where you could make some very, very bold and brave decisions. But if it releases you to be free to be who you want to be, that is something that I feel that you will consider very carefully. Please check out my new website at www.patrickarundel.com. There are loads of celestial goodies there for you to enjoy. You can check at any time during the day exactly where the planets are in the sky. You can download your free natal horoscope, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, but also your daily, weekly, monthly and year 2025 love horoscopes are there for you to enjoy too. So that's www.patrickarundel.com. Leo, for you, that new moon on the 27th of April was really asking you to take your talents, your skills really seriously. You're often someone who likes a degree of acknowledgement and recognition. You feed off that, but that particular new moon really gave you even greater desire for that recognition because of the position of Mars, which had just come back into your sign on the 18th of April. So for about 10 days before that, you felt you were starting to pick up pace around something that meant a lot for you to express your individuality. The problem is that the 10th house is where sometimes we have to be a bit more conventional, toe the line, conform to what other people expect of us. But because Uranus is in this particular equation, if you're really feeling that you're having to compromise yourself too much in order to get that acknowledgement and recognition, it may be a time for you to rethink, especially as the moon is in your 4th house. The 4th house is about how it feels. Whatever goals and ambitions or golden dreams that you've been pursuing, ask yourself this question over the next couple of weeks. Does it feel right? If it does feel right, and you're open to pushing yourself out and gaining more recognition, perhaps by being more daring or doing things that are more novel, Uranus, go for it. You also have a tremendous link on this event between Mars in your sign and Venus, which I think can be very helpful. But just be aware, you could encounter someone over the next 2 weeks who may be quite unyielding and unbending in what they expect from you. So I feel that with Mars and Pluto in a T-square from the position of Mercury, conversations with people professionally will take some patience and care over the next couple of weeks, because if someone is not really seeming to lean into your situation, it could create a lot of frustration for you. Please check out my new website at www.patrickarundel.com. There are loads of celestial goodies there for you to enjoy. You can check at any time during the day exactly where the planets are in the sky. You can download your free natal horoscope, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, but also your daily, weekly, monthly and year 2025 love horoscopes are there for you to enjoy too. So that's www.patrickarundel.com. Virgo, you have an appreciation of order and routines like no one else, and you help to glue everything together for everyone else because you're very conscientious, thoughtful, supportive. You're on the detail of things. But this is a particularly complex full moon because in a way it's urging you to change something, and you may be thinking, well, what do I change? Do I need to change anything? But there are a number of pointers that are creating the potential for change, but if you resist, that can also create some tension too. So let's just look at the big picture. Mars, the planet of desire, but also of anger, to be honest, is located in a very psychological part of your chart and has been since the 18th of April in this latest phase. So since then, your emotions may have been a bit up and down, particularly towards the end of April when we had the new moon. So that new moon in your sister Earth sign of Taurus was pushing you to change things up, to release what no longer was working for you. But because you can be very applied to those routines, those life structures, they give you a sense of security, and Pluto is going to be asking you for some time to come, and particularly now in its retrograde, to let go of something that has been a big part of your everyday world for some while. But exactly what? So in a way, there's lots of prompts going on here. There's emotional stuff with Mars, there's practical stuff with Pluto, and then there may be your own inclination to just have more personal freedom, to be more adventurous, to be a bit more independent. And that goes against what defines a lot of Virgo people, which is being of service, providing something which supports something. So whether it is in your personal life, a romantic situation, your work, your daily habits and enjoyments, all of those things are up for review. And this particular full moon could see a lot of conversation about what you should do, especially because your ruler Mercury is in your 9th house as well. Very much about exploring, downloading knowledge, becoming much more informed. Brilliant if you are thinking about applying for a course of higher education or something to do with reskilling or anything to do with travel. But because Mercury, your ruler, is in a complex T-square to both Mars and Pluto, the energy that came up at the end of April can be repeated now, but just in a slightly different way. Resistance, essentially, Virgo, is going to prove futile. But if we don't quite know where we're heading, even if we sense that change is inevitable, that's quite an uncomfortable place to be. And that could be what some Virgos will experience. Alternately, you could just find yourself having a lot of very important discussions. And if you're open to it, people can give you their viewpoint and give you a lot of pointers and information and encouragement, and that's something to really savour. So I would say be very, very open-minded about who you can connect to, who you can learn from, who you can share your knowledge with as well. Could be something that can really shine. But with Uranus in the mix and that complex relationship between Mercury, Pluto and Mars, if you resist and and really don't want to change something, even though you know something in your world isn't quite working, that's what can cause quite a lot of pressure, I feel. Please check out my new website at www.patrickarundel.com. There are loads of celestial goodies there for you to enjoy. You can check at any time during the day exactly where the planets are in the sky. You can download your free natal horoscope, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, but also your daily, weekly, monthly and year 2025 love horoscopes are there for you to enjoy too. So that's www.patrickarundel.com. So Libra, this is a full moon which accents the 2nd and 8th houses of your situation. So it's the mirror of what Aries people will experience. So for you, and because the event chart was showing the ascendant in Libra, very similar to that. So that 8th house energy comes up in Taurus. So that's what we share. Taurus can be very sensual. It can be very much to do with the arts and crafts. It can be very stylistic, but it can also be very entrenched. So you could find yourself having a big discussion about what you share, or are you being rewarded for your endeavour in the way that you feel you deserve? Because the Scorpio energy to you will be about your worth. And because your ruler Venus is actually in a very strong location in your 7th house, forging a delightful link to Mars, if there is something you want to negotiate or change, you can articulate yourself with passion but a good deal of charm, which of course comes very naturally to you, but charm with purpose. So you can say how you feel, punch that across, but someone might be surprised that you could be a bit more to the point, perhaps even surprisingly blunt with your comments, because Uranus pushes you to be as authentic as possible about what's not working for you. And because Pluto in your 5th house is about manifesting your need for your individual purpose to come through, and Mars is in the part of your chart to do with your longer term plan. If you feel thwarted, someone could find that you are more direct, but you can still use that velvet glove as you put your ideas across with conviction, but you can still use a good deal of charm too. Please check out my new website at www.patrickarundel.com. There are loads of celestial goodies there for you to enjoy. You can check at any time during the day exactly where the planets are in the sky. You can download your free natal horoscope, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, but also your daily, weekly, monthly and year 2025 love horoscopes are there for you to enjoy too. So that's www.patrickarundel.com. So Scorpio, the annual full moon in your sign always makes you aware of relationship matters. What's really different this year is the role of your 2 rulers. Pluto is revealing things to you about your emotional needs, whereas Mars in the very dominant 10th house is giving you the potential to be very much more assertive and self-confident. So if there is something that does need to be discussed, the chances are you can use that Mars position as a conduit to get your point of view over. But with Uranus on the other side of the heavens, you may find yourself very restless. If a relationship isn't quite working as you want, someone could be surprised. You may want to go and have some space for yourself. And because Uranus has been quite a challenging influence for you in terms of relationships, there may have been some electric connections since March 2019, but also some very short-lived situations. You may have seen someone, thought it was absolutely on fire, and then suddenly it's gone, and that's very disconcerting. So I think essentially relationship conditions have been somewhat unsettled. What it has done in a very positive way, Uranus, is made you much more conscious that sometimes it's good to be truly honest. Even if there is that part of you that can not be secretive, I think that's a little bit of a pop astrology part of you. It's more that you need to just be a little more private, and you're not necessarily going to open up to the wrong person at the wrong time, so you can be a bit more strategic. But I think Uranus has been in some ways asking you to tell it as it is, and if ever there was a set of influences pushing you to really just be naturally you, it is going to be this full moon. But Mercury in your 7th house does, although it is in a T-square with your 2 rulers, it does provide a bit of a lightning rod, because Mercury in the 7th helps us to listen to other people more, be a bit more detached if people see things differently, and not take things quite so personally. But some frank discussions about your interactions, whether it's with a colleague, family members, neighbour, friend, or a lover, are really possible over the next 2 weeks. Please check out my new website at www.patrickarundel.com. There are loads of celestial goodies there for you to enjoy. You can check at any time during the day exactly where the planets are in the sky. You can download your free natal horoscope, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, but also your daily, weekly, monthly and year 2025 love horoscopes are there for you to enjoy too. So that's www.patrickarundel.com. Sagittarius, the moon for you is in the 12th house. 12th house moons are not easy. The 12th house is that part of our situations where we can feel somewhat tender. We can have a need to have quiet time. It can be where we could feel a little insecure, whereas the position of the Sun and Uranus is about those everyday practical demands like work, routines, making sure that we conform to deadlines. So it's the psychological impact of the stresses and strains of everyday life that this particular full moon can tease into the open. Also, just be aware that there's that part of your nature that is very flamboyant, but not everybody will get that because you're larger than life. Some petty jealousies, some office politics could be around you. Don't share confidential details with anyone you don't know very well or have never really trusted. They're seize on any little tidbit and enjoy and relish what you share. And obviously in these situations with people who are not so trustworthy can often embellish what you've told them in the first place. In a more dynamic and constructive way, Mars and Pluto are really pushing that part of your nature which is so freedom loving, but of course Saturn has been very challenging the last couple of years in terms of home, emotion, family, and Uranus itself has just kept throwing up loads of changing circumstances. It's been very difficult to get into a rhythm and routine for you over the last 5 or 6 years. And therefore, if you do find that life is closing in a little bit, one of the things I would suggest you could do is just do something completely spontaneously, even if it does mean having that proverbial duvet day or cancelling someone coming to visit. If you just don't feel that you can take another single piece of commitment or demand, doing something that enables that very adventurous and independent part of your nature will just be so good for your soul. Please check out my new website at www.patrickarundel.com. There are loads of celestial goodies there for you to enjoy. You can check at any time during the day exactly where the planets are in the sky. You can download your free natal horoscope, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, but also your daily, weekly, monthly and year 2025 love horoscopes are there for you to enjoy too. So that's www.patrickarundel.com. So Capricorn, the pop archetype of your sign is that you're someone who's somewhat serious, very conscientious, hardworking, applied, takes responsibility to heart. those are all lovely qualities in a proportionate way. But Uranus over the last few years has been pushing you to be a bit more experimental, and maybe something you've been working on for some while has reached a critical juncture because of the position of Pluto and Mars, because they're working across your 2nd and 8th house cusp. The everyday financial side of things with Pluto, and the longer term or shared financial things with Mars. So if something isn't quite working for you, because Mercury, also like the Sun, and Uranus is in your 5th house, it's very bubbly, very effervescent, and can be a bit mischievous because Mercury is so challenged by Mars and Pluto. I don't feel it's the best time to perhaps be too quick to make any long-term and rather large financial decisions, because essentially the 5th house, where the Sun and Uranus and Mercury are, can be the sector of speculation and risk. And you could get lots of different opinions coming in. And also what may show up over the next couple of weeks is a friend may see things very differently to you, or could increasingly seem a little bit jealous or a little bit possessive, not necessarily of a material part of your life. They don't necessarily want your possessions or your money, but they may want your time. And I think Uranus really is accentuating your need to really be a bit more of a free spirit, with a mind on keeping the lines of communication open. So I feel it's possible you might want to spend time with some different people over the next couple of weeks. You can still keep your friendships with those long-standing friends, but if you do feel someone's become a bit clingy and it's really, stopping you being able to breathe quite as freely as you would like, that's somewhat of a clue. But if you are thinking about splashing out on a big ticket item, I'd hold off. But if you have been working hard on something that is a bit more novel, this could be a 2-week period where you have to review whether it is viable for the long term or not. Please check out my new website at www.patrickarundel.com. There are loads of celestial goodies there for you to enjoy. You can check at any time during the day exactly where the planets are in the sky. You can download your free natal horoscope, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, but also your daily, weekly, monthly and year 2025 love horoscopes are there for you to enjoy too. So that's www.patrickarundel.com. So Aquarius, this particular full moon does have some potential paradoxes. The moon in Scorpio can enjoy privacy, certainly be a little more reserved. But for you, Scorpio is the 10th house. That's our connection to the wider world. The moon in the 10th house is loud and proud. So that could mean that something you've been feeling around your professional or worldly situation, the moon being feelings, or a relationship in that environment, may be more difficult to disguise. You also have the combination of your modern ruler Uranus on the Sun, which in itself has been creating some helter-skelter stuff since, May 2018, when Uranus first went into Taurus for 5 months, squaring up with Mars, which is just on the cusp of your sign, before it went into Aquarius, went into a retrograde. So that whole process of Uranus in the sign of Taurus has been far from easy for a lot of Aquarians. So you could find that something that's been linked to that whole journey may need a review. And that could be about where you live, how you live there, and who with. It may be that if you work from home, that can be something that is becoming a little bit too much. And it's possible with Pluto in your sign, giving you the potential to transform your life in some major way, is in its interaction with Mars being confronted by the demands of other people. And because Mercury is also like the Sun and Uranus in your 4th house, there's part of you that could feel a little tender, a little raw, perhaps even vulnerable by all these contra energies. What you can take great heart from, however, is that Venus and Mars are in an exquisite trine. So if there is something that does need to be discussed, even if it is something that you feel a little raw about, you can discuss it with great skill, as long as you don't rush into a decision, because that Uranus energy on the Sun in the opposition with Moon can create switches, very quick switches, sudden need for space, sudden need for connection. It can be extremely unpredictable. So when it comes to your work, for example, even if something isn't running quite as tickety-boo as you would like, don't rush your decision making just yet. Please check out my new website at www.patrickarundel.com. There are loads of celestial goodies there for you to enjoy. You can check at any time during the day exactly where the planets are in the sky. You can download your free natal horoscope, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, but also your daily, weekly, monthly and year 2025 love horoscopes are there for you to enjoy too. So that's www.patrickarundel.com. So Pisces, the next couple of weeks on the back of this particular full moon could be really exciting for a lot of lively conversations. It's just that with Pluto in your 12th house, which is very much to do with the psychological dimension of life. And Pluto, of course, can be the revealer, as well as being very much to do with politics and power. It is possible, particularly at work, that the conversation could reveal something where someone's being very demanding, wants you to apply yourself even more with the T-square with Mercury. Now, Mercury in the 3rd house, in Taurus, that's very, very good, but it is that T-square. So as much as you're trying to discuss something with someone, you may feel that they may have an agenda and things aren't quite being openly talked through, and that may be something you have to break down. But just know, with Venus in your 2nd house in an excellent link to Mars, you can have a positive outcome, but it just could feel a little precarious as you go through the discussion, because just the exchange of views could just get inside that part of you that can feel a little raw at times. But just know that Saturn is going to be moving out of your sign soon on the 25th of May for its first sojourn into Aries for 3 months and 7 days. And that will bring different challenges, but it will bring the potential for some opportunities, I feel. Please check out my deep dive on Saturn in Aries, which I've just released. But I do feel that if you're prepared or know that some big conversations are coming, some of it can feel tender, but if you keep being productive, working hard, and get your plan and your responses in place before you have that discussion, that review, that's going to be a really positive thing to do. But if you are in the mood to do something completely different, you might find yourself booking a last minute travel expedition and actually really enjoying breaking out and the freedom that that brings. Please check out my new website at www.patrickarundel.com. There are loads of celestial goodies there for you to enjoy. You can check at any time during the day exactly where the planets are in the sky. You can download your free natal horoscope, which is absolutely brilliant. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, but also your daily, weekly, monthly and year 2025 love horoscopes are there for you to enjoy too. So that's www.patrickarundel.com.